Review Radio.
Welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and you are listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Lucy Liebfried in Chicago. Are you ready for another Paranormal Friday night? We are so happy that you can join us. We welcome all of our regular listeners and those of you who have tuned in for the very first time. Now, the phone lines are open, so feel free to call into the show with your paranormal stories at 661-244-9831. Don't forget, you can always send us an email with future topics that you'd like to see on the show, or if you just want to say hi. Our email address is paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. And last but not least, check us out on our Facebook show page and on our YouTube channel for more information on the paranormal and upcoming shows.
All right, everyone. As Lucy just mentioned, tonight we're going to open up the phone lines to you guys, the listeners, because we want to hear some spooky tales, some ghostly paranormal stories from you guys. If you are in chat or listening right now live, we want to hear your stories. So the phone lines are open now at 661-244-9831. When you call, I believe you just press the number 1 so that we know that you are calling in for a question and not just to listen. Either way, some of the stories that a lot of people talk about when you say ghost stories, it sort of depicts scary, spooky, frightening. But, tonight we don't want to just hear the frightening, spooky stories. We do want to hear some enlightening, maybe miraculous stories, spiritual, maybe they were religious in nature, or some really frightening dark encounters with spirits or entities. Anyone ever been attacked by a ghost, possessed or oppressed? Have you had visions of saints or maybe even God? We want to hear them all. One of the things we want to achieve tonight is not to see who has the better story or which one gives us the chills, but we want to hear the stories and maybe help us get closer to an understanding of the spirit world or possibly what role we play as living beings in the spirit world. So, Lucy, what kind of stories are you hoping that we hear tonight?
Aside from, like you said, aside from the scary, spooky ones, I really would like to hear from people that have made contact with the other side. I mean, contact with the other side isn't always scary. I mean, sometimes it's loved ones that come across, and I would love to hear from people who have made contact with loved ones. I mean, hearing someone else's story about contact like that, it's not scary. It actually can give hope to somebody. It can give inspiration to somebody. So that's part of what I want to hear. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to hear the scary ones too. I mean, that's always fun. But I want to hear, also too, has anyone ever come in contact with those black-eyed kids? I want to hear about that. Have you come in contact with some kind of cryptid? I mean, have you seen Mothman? Anything along those lines.
Or even UFO stories.
UFO stories would be awesome. So that's what I want to hear.
One of the things that I like to hear, because I don't know, to me it just sort of confirms things. And you know me, I always like to validate everything that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I'm hoping to hear, and maybe we'll ask the questions when people call in, which our phone lines are pretty lit up right now, so we're going to get to you in a few seconds. But one of the things that I like is when someone has a story, has either it's a really frightening story or a, really spiritual, religious story, but there's confirmation at the end of it. There's sort of some validation where the story of the spirit entity that they've come in contact with is validated by the history. Either it's by the history of the location or of the area, maybe even the time period. I have a ghostly tale, and I've said this before on the show, that a spirit had come to me, and lo and behold, I found out through the owner, and came to me in my house, my home, and lo and behold, I came to realize that there was a man who lived in my house who had passed away. And when I saw the vision of this man, I had no knowledge of the person that lived here prior to it. But when I was talking to the neighbors who lived next to me, they had confirmed everything that I had told them about what this person looked like. And that was pretty shocking. And it sort of made me feel a little bit validated and not crazy. Although I don't think I'm crazy, but it's always good to have that when you say that you've encountered the spirit, they look like this, they did that, they were wearing this, and then for someone to come and say, well, yeah, somebody did pass away, and it was during this time period, and, their hair was that color, and they always wore this shirt or something like that. So validating the story is always good. It doesn't make the story, but I like to hear those stories because that's what gives me the chills. A frightening story on its own doesn't tend to scare me, but when I hear that it's been validated by some of the research or what people have told people once they've revealed their encounter to others, and it sort of validates it and confirms what they've just, experienced, that's what gives me the chills.
You know what else I like hearing? I like hearing stories from, locations that people have been to, locations that we've been to. I mean, sometimes people have had experiences in places that maybe you have investigated also. Maybe, and it just validates your own experience when you were there. And I do have to add something. Yes, you are crazy.
I know, I am. But that's because you made me crazy. All right.
Thank you.
We've got. It seems like we've got a lot of callers on the line. So why don't we start to take some calls? Do you want me to take the call, or are you going to do it, Lucy?
I can take the calls, and we'll just see what happens. So
all right,
let's go to area code 812. Hi, you're on the air with Anthony and Lucy. Who am I speaking with?
This is Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I actually belong to Indiana Paranormal Research. Have you heard of us? I'm sure you have.
I'm sure we have. We may not be in a paranormal group, but Lucy and I constantly we have actually a file list of a lot of the groups in all of the states and a lot of the famous ones. And yes, I believe we do have you on file somewhere. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So do you have a story of maybe one of your investigations?
Actually, this recent one that we just went on here a couple weeks ago is the one that sticks out in my mind the most because, it was very active, and I actually got to see what I believe was an apparition. I was standing there looking into the room, and we were talking, doing EVPs, and there were people out talking and stuff that I was just standing there looking, and she was a woman. She stood up from the bed and walked across the room, stopped, turned, and then just turned and walked back towards the bathroom was back there.
Was this your first time ever seeing an apparition like that?
Like that, yes. It was very, very exciting.
I can imagine. Did she acknowledge you at all? Did it seem like she could see you?
I could just see like the outline of her. I knew it was a woman because I could see her hair over her shoulders, and just her just the top part. I couldn't really see, like the bottom part or anything. And then I hollered back at my group members to come in, and we did some more EVPs, and there was actually a psychic gentleman there that was talking to her. It was very interesting.
How long have you been investigating?
Well, I have been investigating a little over a year now, but I have been doing with paranormal for years. So,
well, I mean, we always say, Lucy and I always say this, it doesn't matter if you're in it for a day or 20 years, an experience is an experience,
Right.
But up until this point that you saw this apparition, what was the most the most activity that you've ever encountered or experienced, either while on investigation or maybe on your own?
Oh, well, when I was first married, this is what really intrigued me with the paranormal, was that I met my husband and we moved into a trailer actually down here in my area, and there was lots of bangs, things would move. I could hear people talking, and I would always feel like someone was behind me, breathing down my neck, just things like that. It was just very, and at that time, my oldest daughter, she was 4, and she would tell me about a guy in a blue suit, which I didn't pay any attention at that time, But, and my husband at that time actually woke me up one night and we could see a shadow on our closet door because we left the hallway light on. And he was just standing there, And I didn't really get to see it, but he kept shaking me. And I was like, I looked over and then it was gone. I was like, wow.
Were you scared?
No, wasn't scared. I never felt like anything was going to hurt me. It just made me intrigued. I wanted to know more. So I kept my ears open, and other things just kept happening. Like one time I was standing at my kitchen sink, and it was nighttime, and there was a bulb above old-fashioned trailer. They always had a bulb above the sink.
Right.
And it went out, so I thought, well, the bulb blew, so I turned around, and there was this white thing that was bouncing back and forth in my living room. Well, I thought it was car lights, but it just kept doing it, going back and forth, and then all of a sudden it was just gone. And then a car came through, and I seen it wasn't headlights. Yeah.
So this was a trailer, Melissa, was it not?
It's not now. We actually moved that trailer and put a modular in down there.
So did anything happen once the trailer was moved?
No, but we did do research on the place after that.
Mm-hmm.
And that piece of property that we were on was actually the farmhouse, because it used to be farmland, and there was an old farmhouse that sit there. And, and we did research, and there was actually some hangings in the tree that was out there way back in 17, I think it started in 17-something.
Mm.
And, yeah, we did all the research on it, so it was pretty cool.
So,
sounds like it.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, that's the exciting part, is doing that history, is finding out, what it could be, and not that, you are crazy. Otherwise, Lucy calls me crazy regardless. But what you've been sort of an official paranormal investigator for maybe a year, a little bit more than that. But, paranormal has been sort of in your blood for a long time now. Do you have a personal opinion or feeling as to what the spiritual world is? I'm not sure what other investigations you've gone on in, and maybe what other experiences you've had personally, but do you feel that you've gained any insight as to what the spirit world could possibly be? And we've heard stories and we've heard opinions from a lot of people who have many different insights as to what the spirit world may be. They talk about its actual spirit entities coming here. Previously they were humans, they passed away, and now they're coming back to either communicate or finish some unfinished business. And so that's what that is. But I've also heard that there are entities on different dimensions, or from different dimensions within the universe, or within what we call as the universe itself. But do you have any, just as plain as it can be, do you have any insights as to what you think the spirit world is all about?
Well, my insight is that there are a lot of people, get lost when they pass, when they die. they're either trying to get to one place. They're scared. They don't know where they're going. That's why they reach out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? I do believe there are different dimensions. I think there are dark ones that come here, you know. That I believe that. And I also believe that there are angels that come here to watch over people. But I also believe that there are those ones that are lost, and that's, you know, they're kind of stuck here.
Right.
You know, like it happens so fast they don't know what to do, or they don't even know that they passed on.
So,
you know,
Melissa, since you've been investigating, are you finding that you're more aware of things around you? I mean, are you picking up or sensing more, you know, as far as entities or anything since you've started investigating?
I do. I pay more attention, yes. You know, things that I would never really have paid attention to before, I look closer at. You know, like here recently, which I have contacted or talked to one of our investigators that are with us. His name's John. You'll probably be talking to him tonight. Because my little boy has been seeing someone or seeing something that scares him. He'll point in the corner, you know. And then what really made me look into it was that my little girl came to me and said that she had a new friend she was playing with that bumped her head.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I talked to John, and I'm like, I asked him, I said, should I be worried? And then he hasn't really said that there is something. You know, he's just, because he's kind of got a gift, an insight. He can see things clearer than I can. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, well, I think, and Lucy will say this too, I think we all have the gift. I mean, I can honestly say that now. I didn't believe that 5 years ago, but I can honestly say that now. We all have that gift.
Yeah, just some people are more, you know, I mean, I can't quite see it yet, but sometimes I can feel things, like if you know, that I didn't feel before. So maybe invest, you know. Like
Melissa, now that your daughter has seen things, I mean, what are your feelings now? I know you said that you weren't sure of how to take it, but you know there are some people that feel that children can see and sense things better because they don't have any preconceived notions.
Yes, exactly. That's why I talked to John, because you know, going on investigations, and two, I'm also scared that somebody might attach themselves to me. You understand? Yeah. So that's why you know. But yeah, I honestly, children and animals, that's been one thing that I've noticed, that they are more very perspective, you know, very open when it comes to the spirit world, whether it be an angel or something dark or even anything.
Right. Melissa, since you've seen that apparition, and that seems to be the sort of culmination, the turning point in your life so far. I mean, you know, you're going to continue to investigate, and you're going to continue to experience things, so things may get even heightened even more. But as of right now, the apparition seems to be the main attraction or the main experience that you've encountered. Has anything changed, or have you noticed anything that has changed within you, within your psyche, after that apparition experience? Have you grown to maybe, like we were talking about earlier about the gift, are you susceptible more of that gift? Are you opening more of that gift itself to be able to sense more things? Do you feel that maybe it's just coming naturally to you, or do you feel as though maybe you have more knowledge of the spirit world ever since that apparition?
I think I have gained more knowledge, and I think it does help me be a little bit more open and just let things, you know, just let things go. You know, it's, you know, like when I go on another investigation, I'm just going to keep my mind open, and maybe it will come natural. You know, maybe I will see something again, you know.
Right.
I'm actually wanting to, you know, looking forward to it. I want to, you know.
It'll come when you least expect it, and, you know, and I'm sure you know this already, that Lucy used to do this all the time. I'm putting you on the spot, Lucy, tonight. Lucy used to do that all the time when we used to go to locations, or we used to go to locations, and this is how she was before, not anymore. But the desire, the wanting to have that experience, she wanted so much to have that experience, and I don't think it prevented you, Lucy, from experiencing anything, but I think it may have lent you to overexpose yourself. And what I call Lucy a sponge, because at some points she opens herself too much to the other side and allows them to come through, sort of like opening up the floodgates and just letting it all come in. Whereas before I think that wanting or that desire to have something happen, you were able to keep the doors a little bit closed, but I think you went to the extreme, and now you're sort of level. Now you're a little bit level to where you know when to open those gates and when not to open those gates. But it happens. It will happen when you least expect it, when you are not looking. A lot of times when you even watch the television shows, paranormal reality TV shows, and if you notice, and I've noticed this quite a few times, that when the investigators are just nonchalantly talking about nonsense, nothing, it could be the weather, it could be whether we're going to eat later tonight or something like that, that's when you hear a noise. That's when you notice something that happens, because they're trying to catch your attention. When they feel as though you're not paying attention, they want it. When they see that you want their attention, they'll walk away. That's how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I did before. But between before and now, I realize that too. I'm more susceptible to pay attention to something, that I probably wouldn't have a year ago. It's. I mean, the reason why I really it intrigues me is because it's a way of helping people that. And if I can open up a little bit more, then I'll be able to help someone even more. That's what I was trying to say. Right.
Well, I think that's what we're all thinking, that hopefully what we experience, we can help someone else. But, Melissa, thank you so much for calling in. It was wonderful hearing about your experience.
Oh, no problem. And thank you for letting me talk.
No problem.
Good luck on future investigations, Melissa.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
See, that's cool. I like hearing what other investigators experience. And you're right. I admit in the beginning when I first was starting, I wanted to hear and see something so badly. I mean, I really did, that I think I missed quite a bit. And as we're going along, I have to admit, I'm learning to control how anxious I am in order to see something. And it seems like when I calm down, that's when everything's been happening.
A lot of times before you and I go to a location, you and I both separately, the weeks leading, the weeks leading up to it, we tend to reveal to each other, if we're getting any senses, if we're feeling anything, if anything is coming to us. And most of the time it does, mostly for you, because you have the gift more than I do. But I try not to, and you may not even realize this, Lucy, but I try not to acknowledge when you are telling me these things. I try not, or I downplay them a little bit, because if we talk about it more or I question you more about it, you get so hyped up that the day before or even the day of, you're like, and I say this all the time to you, you're like a 5-year-old kid in a candy store that you just want to run around and get everything done and do it right away. And you want to have that experience right off the bat as soon as we walk into the door. So I try to downplay you a little bit or not acknowledge your feelings or what you're sensing, because I don't want you to get too hyped up, and it may interfere with whatever activity or whatever experience that we may have, because, again, the spirits, they sense that. They feel that. And if they feel too much of that energy, they may back off a little bit.
Yeah, it's just something I can't help. I mean, it is. I am like a kid in a candy store, because this is, it's what it's what excites me. I love, even when we go to places that we've been before. I mean, I know the experiences that we have, and I can't help it. Sometimes before we go to a location, I can feel stuff. It's almost like I start tuning in before we even get to the location. Like while I'm still here in Chicago, I begin to feel things that, may be a couple states away. And to this day, that still amazes me. Sometimes I'll really, really sometimes it's really strong, and then other times, kind of like before we went to Fort Mifflin, I wasn't feeling that much, but I think even when we got to Mifflin, we did get some really good stuff, as opposed to going to some other sites that I was just totally feeling everything like about a week to a month before.
Mm. You just recently witnessed an apparition, right?
Yes, I did, and it was something that I never really expected. I mean, everyone talks about bringing something home, but what I saw, I actually saw a shadow figure in my own apartment. And, people have seen, I've posted on Facebook, I live in a relatively older apartment building. It's a big apartment building. I want to say there's at least about 24 apartments here. And in the basement, there definitely is an entity. Our friend Robin Marie, she's been very good, and she kind of like tuned into it. We actually have a name. It's Mr. Jensen. But he remains in the basement. What I saw was actually in my apartment, and it was during the evening. There were some emotional things going on within the apartment. And I was sitting up watching TV, just kind of watching, calming down. I look up, and I swear it's the first time that I've ever really seen a true shadow figure. I saw it move from my front hallway and go into a bedroom. And you had told me not to acknowledge it, and I tried very much not to. I haven't seen it since, and I haven't sensed it. But I think because the emotional energy was so high that evening that I don't know if it made it conducive to this shadow figure. I still don't know who it is. I have a feeling I know who it is. I think it's a relative, just checking, on things. But it was really amazing. And the thing is that I didn't have to go anywhere to see it. It was here in my own home.
I think usually with the experience of seeing an apparition, that sort of is and that's why I was, asking Melissa, that's sort of the culminating point in a person's life when they are, for investigators or for people who are just enthusiasts of the paranormal itself, seeing an apparition is the culmination of almost everything. Seeing a full-body apparition where you actually get to see details is even better. But I think once you start to see a shadow figure, appearing before you, where you're actually able to see a figure, either it's the head and the shoulders or even legs or anything like that, to me that sort of locks you into the paranormal. It brings you into it so that you become that much more interested. I know for myself, it was that. It was the apparition that I saw at Eastern State Penitentiary. For you, it was the apparition that you saw in your own home. And now, I've always sensed from you that, your eagerness is even more so, or that you've sort of, I guess you sort of relieved your curiosities, and now it's been confirmed for you. And so you're eager to move forward again, and not so much either to see another apparition, but again to get more answers. And that's what did it for me a few years ago, and that's why I asked Melissa if that was sort of that turning point for her after seeing the apparition, if anything changed, if anything clicked in her psyche. It's one thing to hear a voice. I still do feel it's a confirmation for myself, but for some reason that old cliche, seeing is believing, it's that seeing that apparition that really does it for a lot of people, that really plants it solidly in their mind, in their psyche, that there is an afterlife. And those are the stories that I like to hear. Those are the points that in a person's life that I'm really interested in, because there is a difference the next day or even an hour after you do witness that apparition. There is a difference in you. You may not realize it, but there is a psychological difference that goes on in your mind, whether you are a paranormal investigator or an enthusiast or just, a regular Jane Doe and John Doe. It really does make a difference in your life, and I think for me, it validated and confirmed the afterlife, and I think it's doing that for you now as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I've always known, and I'll be honest about it. I truly believe it was my mother, and I've always known she's been around. I can always feel her. I can always sense her. But this was the first time that I could almost literally see her, and it just, where some people might be frightened by it, it actually calmed me. It really did calm me.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. I'm going to pick up area code 865. Hello, 865. You were on the air with Anthony and Lucy. Who's this?
Hi, my name is Matthew Keller. Good evening.
Hi. Good evening, Matthew.
I'm actually a very close personal friend and associate of Susan Jackson, who's one of your regulars on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We love Susan. Susan. So do you have a story, Matthew?
I do indeed. I've got a number of experiences, but I have a couple that stand out in my mind. Firstly, the one that really stands out is one that happened to me back in 1987. I was on a Caribbean cruise on the Jubilee, which was part of the Carnival Cruise Lines, with my family. There was a family that had brought their daughter on board. She was terminal with leukemia. And knowing that she probably wouldn't survive, they brought her on board to spend their last moments with her. Halfway through the cruise, I was out on the foredeck with a young lady I'd met and made good friends with. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and happened to look up, and lo and behold, there was somebody on the upper decks looking down at us. I recalled in particular that the young lady always wore a white dress and a white head wrap. Whoever was looking down at us was in pure white. I couldn't see any distinct features. Out of curiosity, I said, why don't we go find out who it is? So we decided to climb upstairs. During that period in time, I never lost sight of the deck. But by the time we got up there, nobody was to be found anywhere. We went through the hallways. The doors were double swinging doors. The doors were not swinging. There was no footsteps in the hallway. We heard the sound of no door slamming, as if somebody had gone back to the staterooms.
Right.
We just couldn't figure out who was there. It wasn't until that following morning that I found out that she had passed. And so I believe that may have been her, enjoying the scenery for her very last moment.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a very interesting one.
Was that your first experience with the paranormal?
That was my absolute first experience on seeing an apparition and experiencing the paranormal. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I didn't feel frightened at all, just a little baffled.
Mhm.
But that was one in particular that really kind of made me think about the afterlife a little bit more.
At first did you? Because I went through this years ago. Did you first think you were crazy and that you were just seeing things, or did you truly know at that point that was a spirit?
Initially, at first, I kind of thought, well, maybe it's the tricks. But then I thought about, well, how could I be seeing something that is a figment of my imagination when she saw it too? So really, there was somebody there, and then just the fact that the following morning we got the news, and it kind of it cemented that a little bit more.
Right. Okay, good. Good, because a lot of people, go through that first initial phase of I'm crazy, and it stays with them for a long time. And it's always good to hear that when somebody does first see some sort of paranormal phenomena, that first there's a validation like you have with somebody else who saw it as well. But to be able to talk yourself through it and understand that this was the paranormal. This is a spirit entity that you saw. So it's always good to hear that. I hate for people to suffer and think that they're crazy for such a long time and then maybe finally after years maybe get validation, sometimes not. But it's always good to hear this kind of story. That's great.
Well, what I like about it, too, is that it's validation. I mean, there's a lot of stories of people seeing a person, that they come to them, and they may be in a different location, and later on find out that possibly that person had passed on at the moment that they saw them. So this is kind of like validation of that type of apparition.
Yes, I believe it. I believe it was.
So you're an investigator now?
I am. I am part of Susan's group. Yes.
And any stories while out on a location?
No, I'm not that I can say at this moment. No, I'm reasonably new to the group, and I'm just getting myself started. We haven't gone out on any investigations as me being a member of her group yet.
Okay.
That's still in work. However, when I was in the service, I was stationed in Japan for 2.5 years. And Japan is a very spiritual country. And they view visitations from the dead as something very serious. And they don't take it very lightly. I had 2 experiences while in Japan. The first being at an abandoned hospital on Route 13 in the city of Sagami-Ono. It was an abandoned hospital that had been derelict for the better half of 20 years. It was very famous. It had been covered by many Japanese TV shows and news stories. It was the hot spot for the curious and anybody interested in the paranormal. I'd first learned about it through some friends, and it sparked my interest a little bit. So one evening, a friend of mine and I, we decided to go out there. After about 30 minutes, we come to the location, parked our car, turned out the lights, and we ventured in. Naturally, having been derelict, there was no electricity. It was a very hot, balmy night of 98 degrees. And the first place we started out was downstairs where the morgue was. And we stumbled into a group of Japanese teenagers who were just right out of their gourd, and having seen both of us, they come running to us because we had flashlights, and evidently both of theirs had died. We decided to go into the morgue and had the flashlights on, and it was reasonably well lit. And I decided to just kind of stand off to the corner. And while up in the corner, everybody else was kind of walking around. And all of a sudden, I just felt like this cold start at the base of my foot and going up my ankle gradually and climbing up my leg. And it stayed there for about 2 minutes, and then after that, it just receded and it went away. And after that, it was gone. But there was absolutely no way for a breeze to have gotten through there. There was no windows. There was no ventilation in any form or fashion.
Especially since it was 98 degrees out. I mean. Yes.
Yeah. And inside there, where you're completely surrounded by at least a foot thick of concrete. I mean, it was it raised the temperature at least another 5 degrees.
Right.
So, just to feel that cold in that one particular area of my body, and not my whole body, was a little strange. So that was the one particular incident there. The second incident happened when I took a trip with my then girlfriend to her ancestral prefecture, the prefecture of Fukushima, which we all well know, where the tragedy happened of the tsunami and the earthquake.
Right.
The property was once owned by her grandparents and is now owned by her aunt and uncle. I stayed in one part of the house, and she stayed in another part of the house. And the part I stayed in was actually the old portion of the house where her grandparents originally lived. Stayed there for about a week, and things were going reasonably well. I was being shown around the cities and some of the beautiful ports and other locations. Well, one particular night I went to bed reasonably early, and all of a sudden something kind of just made me wake up. And I looked up and I glanced, and I see a old woman standing over the top of me. She had her hair up in a bun. I could actually see that the two sticks that held the bun together sticking out of her hair. She was wearing a kimono with a floral print on it, and she was just looking at me, in an inquisitive way, as if, what am I doing here? And I just, it was just for a few minutes, and then I rolled over and I went back to sleep. And the next morning I just passed it off as nothing more than a dream, a waking dream. Well, a year passed, and just got onto the conversation how we'd gone on the vacation and the trip and everything, and I said, I know you're going to think this is kind of unusual, but I swear, when I was there, I saw an older woman standing over the top of me that evening, and she replies back to me and says, "You saw my grandmother." My aunt, uncle, and my cousins have seen her walking around the grounds on the outside of the house, and she has peered in the windows at them. And she said, "Well, what did she look like?" And I described her to a T, and she pulled out a photo, and I pointed to her, and I said, "Yes, that's her."
Wow.
Yeah, that was how distinct the features were on her.
Matthew, I have to ask this question because this story is almost identical. Lucy, his story is identical to what I experienced in my house. I have one question for you, Matthew, though. Did you see behind the grandmother or around the grandmother any light, any visible light or aura when you did notice her, after you woke up and you noticed her standing there?
At best, I would say it was a hazy blue.
Okay.
It was a very faint, hazy blue. It wasn't terribly bright, but it was enough to kind of light up some of the features and make her stand out a little bit.
Right. That's exactly. I mean, I didn't see that color, but it was a golden white hue that I saw, and it wasn't bright. It was just enough so that I can see sort of the features of the clothing and the color, even the color of the face. That to me is amazing. That's such an awesome story, Matthew.
Thank you.
Awesome.
But yeah, that was one of the ones that really, really stood out for me. It wasn't until several years later, after I'm out of the service, and I'm trying to rebuild, my life after being medically discharged, that I moved to Georgia to try to get to know my biological family. And I got hired on as a prison guard for Wilcox State Prison, and I got to know some people and things. And one evening, visiting a friend, some of her other friends called and said, "Hey, let's go out and do something for the evening." And they started, kind of mulling around in their heads what they wanted to do. And they said, "Hey, let's go to Hawkinsville. Let's go to the old abandoned hospital. We know somebody that's from Southern Georgia Paranormal Research Society. He knows a little bit of the history. He'll take us there and he'll show us around." Okay, fine. So I tagged along, and we all hop into the minivan, and we all drive out there. According to the story, the hospital was abandoned in 1973. Now, I've never been able to completely confirm or the story. I think this is just purely, local legend. But supposedly what happened is that a gentleman was in the birthing ward waiting on the birth of his new child, and his wife was in labor. Well, due to complications, something went terribly wrong, and both the baby and the wife were both lost during the procedure. Well, the man evidently snapped, and he left, and he returned about 30 minutes later, and he went to the third floor in the birthing ward, and he started shooting everybody. Before the police had time to react and supposedly kill the man, he had killed a number of the nurses and other patients and staff on that floor. So that was the story behind the closure. We broke off into groups of 2 to 3, and we started out in the bottom floor. There was the generator room, X-ray room in the morgue, and in the morgue it was pitch black, and we stood there for a while, and about 45 minutes after standing there in perfect quiet, we started hearing footsteps moving around. It was like something was circling us. It kind of made the hair, stand up on our backs a little bit.
Sure.
Just a little cautious. And from that point, we, decided to go upstairs. We went to the second floor, and after walking around and having a reasonably uneventful, look around on the second floor, we decided to go up to the third floor where everything supposedly occurred. Went to the room where the operations were, performed. And we walked into the room, and the door had the oval window, which had been smashed out. And I could see at an angle into another room, and I could see out that window, and I could see the street light. After about 5 minutes, he said, "Okay, are you ready to see this?" And I said, "Okay." And he says, "Go ahead and turn out your flashlight." And he said, be quiet and be still. So, turned out my light, and my eyes finally started adjusting to the dark. And lo and behold, I could see just dozens of black figures just moving back and forth past the door. And it was like they were, in an urgent rush, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But one thing that really unsettled me is that one figure stopped, and it turned, and it completely blackened out the light in the other room, and it was facing me, and I could see 2 red eyes staring back at me. No, I mean, I've never experienced, shadow people, and that was the first time I had. But that was the one thing that, really brought a chill to me. And after standing there for about 10 minutes still, and, it looking at me and I looking back at it, I said enough was enough, and I turned my flashlight on, and as soon as I turned it on, it was gone. There was no sign of anything. From there, we walked out further down the hall into the birthing area. And on further inspection, it looked like the walls had indeed been shot by bullets. I don't know if they were there after the fact, or if that was the actual result of what supposedly happened But we went from room to room, and each room was reasonably, dilapidated. The curtains were tattered, they were torn, dry rotting. The walls had been, tiled with beautiful ceramic blue tile. The floors were linoleum tiles. All the rooms were falling apart except for one room, absolutely pristine in every way. Nothing had harmed it. The curtain was perfect. The tiles were perfect. The floor was perfect. It was like it never aged. I mean, there was even dust-free. It was absolutely amazing. Went in there, looked around, and I was just awed by this particular room. Well, we walked down to the end of the hallway and turned around, and as we were walking back, passing that room, I heard a woman weeping and crying. And I said, hold it, do you hear that? And everybody stopped for a moment, and they listened, and they said, well, what did you hear? I said, I heard a woman weeping coming from that room that we were just in. And, unfortunately, nobody else could confirm it, but I was the only one that heard it. But that was, the gist of most of the activity that we had for that night. It was a pretty active night.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of people feel that hospitals are pretty haunted because of, just what transpires in there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really a pretty fascinating night that night. I was led by somebody that was part of a group, but I wasn't actually part of a paranormal research group at the time. It seemed like I've experienced being touched, or I've experienced smells. I've actually seen full bodied apparitions of different levels, the last one I experienced in Georgia was actually while I was on duty at the prison. And as I understand it, the prison was actually built on Indian burial ground. They found, bits and pieces of pottery, arrowheads, things like that, while, they were setting the foundation. And while building the inmate dormitories, before they started moving in the inmates, they had the radio talk boxes on for each of the dorms, to listen in and things like that, and more. Anyways, nonetheless, even though there was nobody in any of those dorms and no construction was being taken on during the night, officers would report hearing metal clanking and things being moved around, like metal lockers being slid across the floor, and things like that. And of course, once the prison was up and running, we had what was known as a detection system on the fence. It detected vibrations, movements, if touched. And of course, one officer for 8.5 hours was in a car patrolling the perimeter, the complete circumference. And if any perimeter went off, they had to go in and investigate the area. Well, certain officers had claimed to see a woman dressed in white in periodic Civil War garb. They've even said that they had seen Native American spirits, apparitions, and other things have happened. Anyways, that evening I was assigned to the front gate and main entry, and most of the staff had left for the evening. It was approximately 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I was getting ready to log down, entries and things like that. I'd checked everything out, and I looked out into the parking lot, and I saw what appeared to be the figure of a man walking from the parking lot into the cemetery that was adjacent to the prison. No distinct features. I just saw a head, shoulders, what appeared to be legs walking, and arms swinging, and that was all I could see. It was a green, transparent color, and that's all I could make out of it. But that was the last experience I saw. So.
Had you ever, before the experience that you encountered on the cruise ship, which I believe was your first experience, had you believed in the paranormal before that?
Oh yes, I was always very fascinated by it. I loved, the campfire stories. I loved reading books on, parapsychology. Psychical research. Cryptozoology. Things that had to do with the unknown. Yeah,
right.
Had an interest. So,
and I believe Susan wrote it in chat. You're with her group, Zero Gravity Paranormal, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, or what do you hope? Maybe from experience, what do you hope people who do experience the paranormal, what do you hope happens to the field itself, to the furthering of the research and within the industry? What do you hope it will happen, or what do you wish will happen to the field itself?
I think there'll be a broadening of it. I'd like to think that as more evidence is discovered, and as techniques are used, more things are captured, and it'll start to take on recognition as a valid science that we're not kooks, that we're just people with an open mind, and that we're looking for answers to what happens to us, what happens to our soul, what happens to our spirit when we pass on. Does it move on to another higher level? Does it stay behind? Is it transferred? What exactly happens?
That's great.
Excellent. Matthew, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you.
Yeah, and good luck. Do you guys have a planned investigation in the future?
We are trying to get some investigations lined up for this autumn.
Oh, great. Well,
Excellent.
good luck. And maybe we'll have you and Susan and the group on, and maybe we'll do a show after you guys investigate and share some stories again.
I think that'd be wonderful.
Great. Thank you so much, Matthew, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
All righty. I got chills, Lucy, when he was talking about the story when he was in Japan about seeing his girlfriend's family's grandmother, because it's so similar to my story, so similar, where I was awoken in bed and saw the vision, and you can see a little bit of the details, had the glow behind the person. I mean, it was just, I got chills when he was talking about it.
That it is amazing, and I will say one thing: I have been able to sense your apparition there, and I'm going to say, and I know I did tell you about this, but I believe that I've seen him when I was sleeping, but I know he's there. I definitely know he's there, but I have not been lucky enough to see him. But I really think that is amazing, and it's interesting, and that's why we do this.
I don't expect to see this spirit again. I really don't. I mean, I haven't since that time. I think some spirits just want to be recognized, and to for the living human beings to understand what happened. And I had heard a story that someone did die in this house. Excuse me. But the story that I initially heard was that it was an older gentleman. Now, an older gentleman lived here with his wife. He did pass away, but not in the house. It wasn't until I saw this vision that we started to talk to the neighbor, and I said to the neighbor, I know that there was an old man that died in this house, but not a young, because the spirit that I saw had to be maybe in his 30s, mid-30s, maybe early 40s. It was a young guy. And when I was mentioning it to the neighbor, she said, "Oh, no, that's the person that died, not the old man. There was a gentleman that died here in the late 70s, early 80s, and he was drunk and fell down the stairs and passed away." And I had not heard that story at all. And I think maybe it was, he wanted to clarify the story. He wanted me to know that it wasn't the old man, it was him. And he wanted me to find out the story of what happened. And, I acknowledged it when I heard it from the neighbor, and I sort of spoke to it and said, I'm really sorry that he passed away. It must have been hard. And I think maybe that's all that they wanted. I think they just wanted to be heard. They wanted to be known, leave that mark, and then go on to wherever they were meant to go to after they passed away. I truly believe that.
He just wanted you to acknowledge him. That's what he wanted. And I think,
and I think
you did.
And I think he felt comfortable because he knew, I'm sure he probably hears me talking on the radio and talking about the paranormal. He knew I was comfortable enough to be able for him to have shown himself. There are other spirits that in my family that I wish would come to me, but I guess they've just moved on. They don't feel as though that there's anything left here. But I treasure that experience. I really do, and that to me was the first time I've ever seen an apparition in detail. I've seen shadow figures, but nothing. I mean, I knew the sweater. It was a V sweater. I mean, I can tell you everything. I still envision it right now. His skin was tanned, coiffed up hair like 50s pompadour. I mean, that's exactly what I saw, and that's exactly what the neighbor told me what he used to look like. It was just, it was amazing to me, and it actually validated, so I didn't think that I was crazy, because I told a few people that, and they were like, get out of here, you're crazy. But at least it validated it for me.
What's amazing about the whole thing is by talking about him, especially about talking about him on air, you've given him a chance to be heard by more than just a few people. You've given him a sense of being recognized by quite a few people. And I think that's awesome.
He's become famous.
Yes, he has.
I was interested in Matthew's story when he was over in Japan, because he's right. I mean, in Japan, the paranormal is very serious to them. It's not a joking matter. It's not a taboo type of thing over there. I mean, it's almost natural, the paranormal to them. It's almost it's a facet in every aspect of the culture and in the lifestyle of Japanese. And so I would love to go there. I would love to go to Japan and investigate some location, because I think that would be, I think we would get, first of all, I think we'd probably get the scare of our lifetime. But I think, I don't know, I guess just because the way that we are more accepting than normal, and don't take it for granted that going there to a location in Japan, I think it would lend itself to a really great experience that maybe one day.
The first place I want to go when we get there is the Suicide Forest.
I never heard of that.
Oh, my God. I've got to send you the research on it. It's called the Suicide Forest, and it is a forest in Japan that
Is that the one that Josh Gates went to?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And for some reason, the story goes is that most people go there, and there is an extremely high number of suicides there.
I remember seeing that there was, trinkets left behind by the people who did commit suicide. They had sort of
Yeah.
maybe set up their stuff or books or something like that, notes maybe that they left. Yeah.
And it's supposed to be extremely haunted. I mean, and of course, you've got these poor people who have ended their own life before their time, so I'm sure that many of them are still searching for the answers that they couldn't find when they were here.
How troubled would that forest be? How sad and depressing would that be? I mean, when you came here to New York to visit me, we went down to the World Trade Center, and after 5 minutes, you had to leave because
I could not handle what I felt.
The energy that you were receiving there was too much. Could you imagine going to this forest, the suicide forest in Japan?
But it's something that I think I would want to do. I really would. And again, I want to go back to ground zero. Now that I know what I'll feel, I really have to go back there because even at ground zero, there are still voices. There are voices of people that want to be heard. And I know I can hear them. And unfortunately, I didn't know what I was going to experience, and it just got to me. But now that I'm prepared for it, I think I can handle it. I really, really want to go back.
Yeah, I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression that we went there and investigated. I don't want people to think.
No. I had asked Anthony. I'm in New York. I have to see it. I wanted to see it. And all we did, we just went to go visit it. I mean, we weren't investigating.
Right.
But unfortunately, I hate saying it this way, but I'm sensitive enough that I pick up on a lot of things when I'm in a location. And it's not necessarily that I'm investigating. I could just go and pick up on things. And this just happens to be one of the places on Earth that there is so much that's still there that I'm sure anybody who's sensitive can go to ground zero and feel something. And you don't have to investigate. That's one of the things that hopefully that people will realize, that when you go to a place, you don't necessarily have to break out all the equipment, and stand there, with your recorders. Sometimes these spirits, they come to you when you least expect it.
All right, let's take another caller. You want to take another caller?
Yeah, let's go to area code 304. Hi, you're on the air with Anthony and Lucy. Who is this?
Hi, Anthony and Lucy. It's Rob Henry from 2 weeks ago. I thought I would chime in tonight.
Hi, Rob.
How are you?
Welcome.
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys?
Fine.
Great. We loved you on the show back then. I mean, to me, that was the second time that we've done a paranormal roundtable like that. And Lucy and I kept talking. Lucy and I were talking to each other for at least a week after that about your answers, your insight. You were phenomenal. I have to tell you that, Rob.
Thank you. I had an amazing time. I love sharing thoughts and ideas with people on the paranormal. I love hearing all different types of, not only people that agree with our point of view but disagree. But I had to call in tonight because I have a story that is more comical than anything else. And so that would be a nice little touch. We do regular investigations at the historic home in Cerrito called the Ramsdale House. And the home is an amazing place. If you're ever in West Virginia, let me know. I don't know why you would be here, but let me know. We'll get you a visit. It was actually the last stop on the Underground Railroad in the area. House was built in 1858. It's a huge history. Well, the gentleman that built the house was a gentleman by the name of Zophar Ramsdale, who served as a captain during the Civil War. Knowing this, we had a young gentleman that came to one of our open house nights that was dressed in uniform. He's active duty Army. So just to kind of be comical, we asked the captain through a flashlight session if he would like to inspect this young private, and the flashlight turned on. And the young private, his face just turned pale white. It was just absolutely a priceless moment. I said, if you would like to have him come to attention, please turn the flashlight off. And the moment I said it, the flashlight turned off. It could not have been rigged to be more perfectly timed. So, he had him at attention. I said, if you are currently inspecting the private, will you please turn the light on? He turned the light right back on. About that time, the private shuddered, and he said, there's somebody standing behind me. And he just had goosebumps popping up. Throughout, we asked different questions of the captain, and he was responding very well. Well, finally, we had the flashlight turned on, and we had the private saluting him. And we said, Captain Ramsdale, when you return the salute, sir, he's not going to be able to see you, but will you please turn the flashlight off to signify that you have returned the salute? This is where it really gets comical. The flashlight would start to dim, and the moment that young private would go to drop his arm, the flashlight would come back bright, 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 bright. Happened 7 times until he finally let him put the salute down. But to the young man's credit, he stood at attention for a good 10 minutes while the captain played with him and held that salute as well. So I just thought it was a story you might get an interesting little laugh out of. It's really kind of a touching story of as far as how we can communicate with the other side and how some fun can be had.
I was just, as you were talking, Rob, I was just looking up the Ramsdale house, and it says that it's actually built on top of an Indian burial ground.
It's believed to be. The city of Cerrito is actually trying to get the money raised to come down with some ground sonar to look not only to see if there is a Native American burial ground there, but also to find out if the bodies of the Ramsdale family themselves are buried there. But the house is just amazing. We're fortunate. We get to do a lot of work with them. This coming Halloween will be our 3rd year of doing a lecture series there with the public. If anybody from the area is listening in, check your papers. It's free to attend the lecture. We do investigations afterwards. For a donation, you can learn. There's my shameless plug for the week, I promise. But it's an outstanding location. I fully love it. I would go there every weekend if I could.
It's a beautiful place. I'm looking at the picture. It's a brick building. Beautiful.
Yeah, and we actually on our website. Okay, shameless plug too. I apologize. WVParanormal.com. We have a write-up about it with a little bit of a history behind it. Now, I didn't push the Indian burial mound part too much for the simple fact that we haven't been able to confirm this. But we do know historically the body of 3 Confederate soldiers were found on the property. They had been moved and interred into a private location. But you can just imagine the amount of emotion that has flown through that house over the years. People escaping that oppression and being that close to realizing the freedom crossing over into Ohio. Just unbelievable energies. Unbelievable.
We were Lucy and I were in Prospect Place, and
I was going to say that.
And it's sort of similar history. It was part of the Underground Railroad as well. But I had I'm not going to say bad experience, but it seemed as though because I'm white that I was faced with the former slaves' spirits, I believe, because I saw about 5 faces in front of me, and it was as though that they were looking at me like, why am I there? Or I could be a threat to them because I was white, and they didn't really do anything to Lucy when we were down in the basement area. Did you feel any of that nature when you're at the Ramsdale?
Actually, not at the Ramsdale. Now, I would imagine if we were at more of a location that was a plantation type setting where slaves were held, you'd probably run into it. But the Ramsdale house and stops on the railroad like it were looked as escapes. They were looked as friendly locations. It was a more of a warm and inviting spirit, because when you really think about what Captain Ramsdale and his family did, they risked everything. I mean, they could have been imprisoned, put to death. So, in that aspect of it, I think it's a little bit of a different feeling than if you were in an area that was a plantation base. Now, there are some areas around here like that. I've not been fortunate enough to get to them yet. But it would be kind of interesting to see how it's played out. Now, I can tell you, when we have had people of African-American descent come with us, they get a totally different reaction. It's totally different involvement. They feel things guess, much more intently. I don't know if the spirits are more drawn to them because, they're some of the spirits that are there are escaped slaves that maybe didn't make it past the Ramsdale house. I don't know if there's more of an interest from the Ramsdale family themselves, who we believe to still be there. But, it's outside of the guy that actually tried to summon something up inside the house one time, we've never had anything drastically bad happen to us there.
I'm also reading. I'm sorry, Lucy. Go ahead.
Well, and Anthony's experience wasn't exactly a bad experience, but it was his reception there was definitely different than what I had, and it was almost to the point where I had to almost introduce him to the spirits that were there before they literally accepted. That's the feeling that I got. The fact that Anthony had come in, he was white, I'm brown, I was much more accepted, and I didn't feel anything like that. But I'm assuming that in any one of these places like this, of course, there was that natural distrust of anyone who was white. They didn't know, if it was a friend or if it was a foe. So that is pretty much what I was sensing.
And more specifically, it also has to run along lines of gender, because historically, the men were the taskmasters. They were the ones with the whip. They were the one with the lash. So naturally, the spirit would be more distrusting of a male presence than a female presence, because women, in most cases, have a more nurturing attitude than men do. So more likely, they would have mercy from the woman of the house than they would from the man of the home. So that actually worked, to your advantage on both sides.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's interesting that you mentioned, like with the Native American. Of course, that's the joke that we have, that there's always a Native American spirit involved. But what I found that in some in some places, in some locations, the connection with the Native American spirits for me is very intense, and I think it does run along cultural lines, that they recognize someone of the same descent. And I've just really, it's becoming stronger and stronger as I go along. I really feel that the recognition, I'm sure that, let's say if we went someplace in Italy, I'm sure that Anthony would probably get a really wonderful, warm welcome, where I might be questioned because I'm not Italian.
Exactly. It comes back to an old adage that we have in the team: know your audience. When you're going into certain locations, certain approaches have to be observed. If you're speaking to somebody from the 17th century and you talk slang, they're not going to have a clue. If they identify more with a person of color than a person that is not of color, if they're naturally inclined to identify more with a male than a female, it's knowing your audience when you go into these locations is crucial in most cases. Which is why when we do residentials, we have to do a big background check on what type of activity the house has had, the people that are the most affected by it, whether it be the men in the house, the women in the house, the children, any guests that come in. And it gives us a better opportunity to be able to help them out.
Before, when we went to earlier, I think this was was Fort Mifflin our last investigation?
Yeah.
Before we went to Fort Mifflin, we do a lot of research. I love to do it because I love to find out if there's anything that I can pick out that I can find that's different than the norm of history that, basically everybody knows. I like to go further back. I really love to go back, way back, because Lucy and I both believe that, obviously the land has been here for a long time, longer than, say, the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, as the history has been depicted for Fort Mifflin. And if you go and you search for anything of hauntings or any kind of stories within Fort Mifflin, it always pretty much starts at the Revolutionary War. Now, I went further back because the land has been there forever, and so obviously somebody's occupied that land before, and naturally it's always going back to Native Americans. Now, I had found out a story on the land itself, where Fort Mifflin is, that the Cherokees and Lucy, I can't remember the other tribe for the life of me right now.
I can't remember either.
But they were both in up in arms with each other over the land and over the trading and the bargaining. And apparently the Cherokees and this other tribe went to war with each other, or I guess just a quick fight. But what happened was the Cherokees were trying to set up this other tribe, and or is that right? Something about, I can't remember. I don't have my...
Cherokees were jealous of the communication that the other tribe was having with the white settlers, and the Cherokee wanted to kind of like just ruffle the feathers. So I forgot, there was an incident that they did, and they tried to make it look like this other tribe had done it in order to make the relationship, to make it a little rocky.
Right. And so I mentioned that to Lucy, and I said, you got to be on your P's and Q's when we go, because it may be that if this other tribe is there, these other spirits of this other tribe are there, they see you as Cherokee, that they may be hostile towards you. I don't think we had anything that was really extraordinary of that nature that happened to you or to any of us that night. But again, that's the history that we like to I guess, forewarn ourselves before going into a location, just like you were saying, Rob.
Yeah, definitely. And, we did a little bit of a further history search, when we were dealing with the Ramsdale House to find out the Native American history of the area. We found out it was the Adena tribe was the primary tribe until the Cherokee Confederation moved in.
Right.
Were the mound builders. They actually, we have mounds all over the state of West Virginia because of them that are actual mounds still occupied. So, you're exactly right. Homework is so important as an investigator, and it's something that I don't think it's stressed enough on the TV shows.
Right, and I think that's the precaution that a lot of groups should be taking, because you have to take into consideration, what are your nationalities, where is your ancestral history, and then how is that in place of the location that you're going to be going to. You should be able to protect yourself, and if it means, a certain somebody in your group may be affected more because the history depicts it that way, then you should all be looking out for that one person, or that one person maybe not go into that location. It all depends on the circumstances and the history and the stories that come out and the research that you get on it. And I wholeheartedly believe in that research, and that's why Lucy and I do, and that's why you do it, Rob, because you want to make sure that you've taken every precaution that you can. You never know what's going to happen with the spirit world. You never know how it can be affected, and there is no sure way, and I will say this, there's no 100% proof positive of any kind of protection for when you go into a location like that.
Exactly, and that's great advice.
Yeah, because a lot of people think, okay, they're gonna talk about, or they're gonna say a prayer of some sort of protection, or envisioning the white light, as everybody says, and surrounding yourself with the white light. That's great, and I'm not, I'm not dismissing anybody to not do that, but I think you should always keep one eye open and be cautious and be aware of what's going on when you're at a location, because if something doesn't feel right, walk away. Don't think that you've already got that protection because you've said that St. Francis prayer, or you've envisioned that white light. If something is not right, trust your gut and walk out.
Exactly, and we have a pretty basic saying in our group: when in doubt, get out. I don't care how long or how tough of an investigator you are, how many investigations you've been on, how many exorcisms you've done. You can get into situations that you're just flat out not prepared to handle. Right. I make no mistake in that. I've been doing this for 28 years. I'm considered one of the old timers at this point, which is kind of scary if you think about it. But I've been in situations where I know I'm not supposed to be here. I was in one recently in Centralia, Pennsylvania, which is the location that the movie Silent Hill was based off of.
Yeah, that's an amazing spot.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely unreal what's going on there right now. But we were investigating at night near an abandoned trailer that was up on the side of the hill, and there was just something not right. And I pulled the team immediately. Just pulled them, got out. So it's always best to play it safe when you go into these locations.
Great advice, Rob. Great advice.
You can't
Thank
say
you
that
so
enough.
much. Yeah. Thank you so much for calling in. Were you guys heading on to a new investigation soon?
The only thing that we have really written in stone at this point is a 2-weekend series at Ramsdale. We're talking about the possibility of doing a documentary on the place, which I think would be amazing. I'm going to be working with, and you mentioned her before, Robin Marie with this.
Great.
In addition to that, we're talking about possibly going back to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital soon in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, which, if you have not gone, it is a must-see location.
Lucy, how many times have I brought that up?
A lot.
I'm dying to go there.
I want to go.
That you can do if you do what we did a 2-day lock-in. We were in there for 46 hours. They have beds, bathroom facilities, a kitchen, a grill right outside so you can cook your own food. It's just, I've never been in a more active location in my entire life. We had pure-blown voice phenomenon going on when we were there.
Oh, amazing.
It's just unbelievable. Stuff was being pulled out of people's pockets. We had flashlights that were blinking messages back and forth to each other on one floor. We caught shadows. We basically saw just about everything that you could see there. It's an incredible location. The curators of it, Doug and Cindy, they're great people. They actually
we know Cindy. Cindy is really, really awesome. She's a really great gal.
Oh yeah, they're an amazing couple. And, it's an experience that, as an investigator, you will never, and I mean ever, forget going to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. If you guys go, and if you're bringing on people, you want them to come with you, I'll volunteer right now. I'll throw my hand up. I'll meet you down there. It's like a 9.5-hour drive, and I'll be there.
All right. Lucy, we got to set another trip up after the holidays.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Rob,
thanks for having me back on.
Sure, Rob. Before you go though, where can people go to sign up or attend for that Ramsdale conference?
The easiest way to do it is actually you can get in touch with us through our website. It's wvparanormal.com. If you look for us on Facebook, which is where we make all of our announcements, we're listed as the original West Virginia Paranormal. We'll be more than happy to give any information that's needed. I can even be emailed direct at rob@wvparanormal.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Rob, for coming on. It's always a delight to have you on.
Thank you very guys. I'm an avid listener now. I will be back in the chat room again next weekend for sure.
All right,
great. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take care. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. I've been saying this for a long time. I want to go there. We were this close to go in there this year, and we had to push it off. And I really do want to go there. I know I have to fly in. I don't know if you can drive there. I don't know how close it is to you, Lucy, but I'd have to fly.
Honestly, for time constraints, I think I'm going to fly.
Yeah. I'm probably going to have to fly because that would be a long drive for me. But I think that is definitely, if not 48 hours or 46 hours, definitely I want to do it for a complete day to be in that place. Because I've heard so many stories, and Cindy's actually talked to us on the air a while ago about it, and she was in our chat room one time too, talking about the place, and we've always promoted it because we love it. It not only just the place itself, but they actually they have webcams there, and I'm not sure if they still do because I haven't checked their website, but they have live webcams where you can see other groups who have signed up and scheduled for, however long of an investigation. The place itself, the location itself, has webcams up there, so you can actually watch somebody else's investigation happening and hear it too. And so to me, that's amazing. I love that aspect of it.
Well, I like the thought that we can spend like 46 hours in there. You know how it is every time we leave a location. I never want to go.
I know. I take you out kicking and screaming. You're kicking and screaming as I take you out.
But no, Rob is so cool. I mean, I really, really like, and I like hearing the things that he talks about. You know, the things that we stress. You know, the research into the history of the location, and you know, just the preparedness that he does before an investigation. That's what makes the investigation good. You know, having that prior knowledge to what could be there instead of just going into someplace just, you know, without anything. It makes a big difference.
I wish all paranormal investigators were like Rob, because like me, he has that skeptical side as well. You know, and you have to keep that. To me, I think you really do have to be that level. You have to make sure that you question what's happening and don't automatically believe that it's paranormal, because all you're doing really is leading yourself down a wrong path. But he also understands what it is to be a paranormal investigator, what you need to do, the research, the protection that you need to have, the understanding, the awareness of yourself and your teammates and the location itself, the respect of the locations. You know, he has it all. He's sort of like that package. And so I just wish a lot of groups or investigators out there were like him. And sadly enough, there aren't. And things happen, you know. It's you know, I don't know, and I don't want to get into a lengthy conversation about it all, and that's probably for another topic for another show, but I just wish a lot of people were like Rob in that manner, because it only will help improve yourself, but also keep you sane, keep you strong, keep you confident in making sure that you understand everything that you can understand at this point, and the preparation that you need to do before going to a location, instead of just, you know, calling up a place and going without doing anything, without doing nothing at all. It is only foolish to yourself, let alone to anybody else that you're with. So.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. It sounds awesome. It sounds so awesome.
Well, you know, we do have a little bit of time, but I did want to mention a couple of things, Lucy. Why don't you, Lucy, for everybody that's not aware, and I don't think we've even mentioned it at all, Lucy lives in Chicago, and I live in New York, but we're both going to something within the paranormal conference world tomorrow. You're going to some place, and I'm in Chicago, and I'm going to someplace in New York. Why don't you tell everybody where you're going tomorrow?
Tomorrow I am going to, I want to get the correct title. It is the Chicago Paranormal Conference. Hold on one second. And it is at the, see, you threw this at me and I
put you on the
prepared.
Spot. This is the conference that's set up by Ursula Bielski, right?
Yes, it is the Chicago Ghost Conference, okay? And it is put on by Ursula Bielski. She runs the Chicago Paranormal Tours, and it actually started tonight, but this is the fifth one. It's the Chicago Ghost Conference. And tomorrow, one of the featured speakers is going to be Josh Gates. John Zaffis will be there. Tonight, they had Christopher Quarantino, and Jeff Belanger is there, Chris Fleming is there, Uncle Dave Schrader's there, Tim Dennis. So there's a whole lot. I mean, everybody's going to be there. It is here in Chicago. It's being held at the, here we go. Where is it at? It is at the Irish American Center in Chicago. It's Lawrence Avenue and Knox Avenue. And I'm going to be there tomorrow, and I'm going to have my recorder going and hopefully get some, you know, maybe somebody to talk to us, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're gonna try and do some interviews there and try and get to Josh Gates and some of the other folks there, talk them up, and maybe hopefully set up an interview for the show, for a future show.
Yeah, I would like to, the way I put it, I'm going to stalk Josh Gates and, you know, get him on the show.
Just don't get arrested tomorrow, please.
Okay. And where are you going, pray tell? I'm really excited about yours.
Actually, I'm going to see someone tomorrow that Lucy and I have been trying to get on the show for years now. I've read a few of his books. One in particular is 63 Documents the Government Doesn't Want You to Know, which is, or to read, sorry, which is a really fascinating book about theories that government programs have been putting on for years, and you can consider them illegal, maybe not, but really odd, really weird and strange, sort of borderlining on the paranormal a little bit. But Jesse Ventura is actually going to be in New York tomorrow at the Cinema, excuse me, the Cinema Arts Center in Huntington, Long Island. And he's going to be talking about his new book, which is I forgot the name of it, but it's about they killed the president. I believe that's what it's called, and it's in regards to the 50th anniversary of John F. Kennedy's assassination, and how he's sort of unveiling in this new book that he has the what he's considering to be as the true evidence as to who really shot JFK and killed him. And he is probably going to talk about the government shutdown that's going on right now as well, because he's been on, I think, I don't know if it was CNN or some of the national shows that they've had him on and to talk about the government shutdown and what he thinks and some of the conspiracy theories behind that. But I'm going to try to get in there tomorrow, listen to his lecture, have him sign the book, and again, I'm going to ask him if he's available to come on the show. Maybe if not, then I'm going to do an impromptu interview while I'm there at the seminar. I'm going to try and get a hold of him and talk to him and see if I get him on recording, and we can play it on the show one day.
I'm absolutely jealous. And the book is called They Killed Our President.
Yeah. So, this conspiracy theory has been talked up so many times, but it's interesting because Jesse Ventura usually has a different twist to things, and again, he's another one that really goes into the research. It's a heavy research. Now, people claim that he is nonsense, and the research that he does is really, loose, and there's no real heavy weight to it. But to me, I'm always open to anything. I've said this before. I'm open to every theory that's out there on anything. I'll make up my mind once I understand it. And so this interests me. I love conspiracy theories. I like Jesse Ventura's point on a lot of things because I've watched his show, Conspiracy Theories. And so it'll be interesting to hear what he has to say about it. I think he's got a documentary, too, about it that he's going to be showing tomorrow as well, along with talking about the book and doing a book signing. So I'm really excited about it.
I know. I'm jealous. I would rather go. Well, no, I don't want to say that I would rather go, but I really would love to meet this man. He is, even if you don't agree with the things that he says, he makes you think. One way or another, he's one of those people that the things that he talks about really does make you stop and you go, he makes you think. And I think that's a brilliant thing.
Right, and whether you believe it or not is your what's the right word? I can't even think tonight. It's up to you to form your own opinion, whether you believe him or not. It's your prerogative. That's the word I was trying to think of.
Okay.
It's your prerogative to believe it or not, and that's all that we're out here for. That's even what we do. That's what Lucy and I do. We talk about paranormal stories and the phenomenon itself within all paranormal aspects and topics. And there are some things that I'm sure that our opinions or our thoughts and theories are not in agreement with yours. That's fine. That's great. We're not here to jam down that information, and I don't think Jesse is as well. I mean, he puts it out there, but I don't think he's jamming his theory on anybody or down anyone's throats. It's up to you to put the puzzle together, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it doesn't for you. But go ahead.
I want to mention one thing in the chat room. Cranky Crab had asked something. If we had ever come across any demons? And I'm going to answer, no, we have not. Do you want to add anything to that?
I'm going to say I don't know. We come in contact with spirits all the time. We come in contact with entities. We've come in contact with bad and with good. Now, if you want to consider what people like to label a lot of times bad entities as demons, a lot of people like to label bad entities, all of them, as demons, I think is wrong. But if we've come in contact with entities, and Lucy, I think you'll agree with me, we've come in contact with some pretty nasty, bad entities, correct?
Yes, we have.
Now, whether or not they're demons, I don't know. They could be demons in disguise. Or they could be, there's a lot of times when we've been in places, and we talked to Mark and Debbie Constantino about this one time, where Debbie had talked about befriending a child spirit. And her husband, Mark, was leery about that because he didn't want her getting too close, because demons can take on any form. It can be they can portray themselves as good or bad, or less bad or extremely good, until they basically pull you in. So I can't say if I've ever come in contact with a demon, because the demon doesn't present itself with a sign on them that says, "Hi, I'm a demon." I don't know it. I don't know who they are or what they are. The spirits and entities that we've come in contact with, one of them or two of them or all of them could have been demons. I have no clue. I have no idea what they would have been or what they are.
Well, one of the things that I brought to mind was, of course, Bobby Mackey and the basement down there. And I know there are people that say that there's negative there, that there's demons there. But I honestly have to say that my experience, and we've been there twice, I didn't truly feel that extreme negative. For me, it was different.
For you, it was different. For me, it was different.
Yeah, for you, it was definitely different.
Right. I was scratched by something, some entity on the back of my neck. And so I'm not going to automatically say that was a demon. It could have been just a nasty spirit who didn't like me. It doesn't necessarily mean that it was demonic activity in that place. If it is, then okay, then I came in contact with a demonic entity. But I'm not going to know it. I haven't given into that notion that we can tell what is demonic and what is not. I can't seem to understand that at this point in my life right now, whether or not something is demonic or not. I cannot tell. I can't.
Well, I still say, in my experience, when I take all of our experiences and I put them in there, I honestly cannot say that I have been in contact with one, for me, only because I still truly believe that if something is demonic, it is probably going to be something that I've never experienced before in my life. I think there's going to be a definite feeling about it, and I haven't come across that feeling yet. Now, I could be wrong. I really could be wrong. But what I'm going to say, just taking all the experiences that we've had, I truly don't think that I have come in contact with a demon yet.
But I've always told you that you have to be cautious, because whatever you think may be good energy or a good entity that you're feeling could be something in disguise. It could be something of that nature that you just don't know. It hasn't, it's putting on a cloak. It's hiding from you, and it's hiding its true identity from you. So you always have to be cautious, no matter if it's a good entity or bad. Regardless, you have to be cautious of it. You cannot let it in, and you may or may not sense it. And some people out there probably who are mediums and the like, maybe their gift is greater than my understanding of that ability, and so they may be able to feel and sense whether or not something could be demonic or not. I don't know. I haven't spoken to a medium that can explain it to me. And I don't know, I wasn't on the show that day, but you did that interview with Amy Allen from the Dead Files Did she ever mention anything, or did she ever reveal anything of that nature?
She talked about it, but she says that it's very rare.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody says that coming in contact with an evil demonic entity is very rare. But then again, how do they know? You know?
Right.
How do they know?
Don't get me wrong. I have sensed darkness. I have sensed some really negative things. But even when I was sensing the negative and the bad, it was almost like, I don't know if it's the protection that I try to set up or whatever. I'm aware of it, that it's there, but I don't allow it into my space. So I don't know if I am consciously stopping it from coming to me, or if I'm stopping that connection. But I do know, I do sense it. I have sensed it. There have been a couple places where there's definitely been something dark and something negative.
Well, the opposite can be the same as well. You know, we had this conversation with Noah Tysick a while back in regards to, you know, the good-feeling spirits or entities, or the nice spirits that you come in contact with. How do you know that they're not angelic beings? How do we know that they are not? If they're not revealing anything of their identity that you can equate it to the research that you've undergone for that location itself, how do you know that the entity that's presenting itself to you that is of that good nature is not, or is, an angelic being? I don't know. You know, I don't have that answer. I can't fully explain it, or I can't say definitively that we've come in contact with angelic beings. How do we know that all good spirits that we're encountering are or are not angelic beings? I don't know. I can't. That whole idea of labels just bothers the hell out of me, and I think we get so wrapped up in that, and it frames our thoughts and our opinions in regards to the paranormal when we start to put those labels on these things. We just don't know every single answer, or for that matter, all the answers to the afterlife. How can we go about putting labels on things and saying, be cautious of that, but not cautious of this? It just is foolish for the individual itself to believe that, and it's foolish for the group and the field and the industry itself to go on and believe that nature. I think you should just be cautious of everything, good or bad, demonic or angelic, all of it. Just be cautious of it, because you never know.
I think the caution needs to be there, but I also think that every time that you do go into a location, and you have to almost start with a clean slate. You have to take what you know and kind of like put it on a shelf when you're going into the location, because things can be different. Things can change. A location can be completely different from the first time that you've been there. And I think those labels that you were speaking of, I think those labels kind of hinder us in really exploring what's there. So it's almost like I try to look at it as like every time I'm going into some place to investigate, I try to open it to a clear slate. Try not to put my preconceived notions in there, because I want to see what's there. And later on, I think if something fits into a category, then maybe I can, and maybe that category might broaden, or maybe that category might change as to what I know of it. But I really think that you have to have that kind of a clean slate every time you go to an investigation. And Lucy, you know this, and I'm not going to reveal anything now, but there's a project that I'm working on right now that is really opening my eyes to some of the preconceived notions in regards to the paranormal. And the project that I'm doing right now is revealing some things that I've never really thought about before, but is starting to make a lot of sense to me, and I'm hoping will make a lot of sense to everyone else that, once I complete this project, I'll be able to talk about it more and reveal it. But
it's a project and a topic and an idea and a theory, whatever you want to call it, that has not really been discussed, because I've done the research on this already, and there really is no research on it. And I don't know if it's just my kooky own type of theory, but the research that I'm doing individually in the individual parts of this project, I'm finding a lot of answers that are really opening my eyes to the paranormal, and I'll leave it at that, because it is it's something that hasn't been, I don't know if it's been discussed or debated or even brought up or even tested to further indicate if there's any research or involvement even more so. But and I can't wait to reveal this to everybody, because to me I think it's just going to be a really amazing piece of work that it's just going to be great. And Lucy's been helping on it, and so it's going to be. I'm going to leave it at that, Lucy. I'm not going to say anymore.
I just have one thing to say. Hurry up.
I know. I'm sorry. I have a day job. I'm sorry. But before Lucy gets on with the normal stuff that we do at the end of our show, I did want to, and Lucy, I didn't mention this to you, but I did want to sort of promote some of the upcoming shows that we have, because I'm really excited. Lucy, I'm excited.
I know.
I'm not going to reveal what next week is, because you're going to do that at the end of this episode. But coming October 18th, Lucy and I are celebrating with all of you all our second anniversary show on October 18th. That's going to be a pretty amazing show. We're going to have some past guests on. We're going to have some quirky things that we may interject in that show as well. On October 25th, I want everybody to mark their calendars right now. October 25th, I want you all to come back here at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central, and 7 p.m. Pacific. I want everybody back here on the show on October 25th. We are going to have our Halloween show. Lucy, I'm not going to reveal.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm only going to say this one word: exorcism. That's it. October 25th, I want everybody to come back here. That's going to be our Halloween show. And then we've got some really great shows coming up after that is still in the works. And coming mid-November, I'll say this now, November 22nd. Again, I want everybody to mark their calendars. November 22nd, Lucy and I are going to do a live investigation on air. We're going to bring you on air to a location. We're not going to reveal the location just yet. And it's going to be an amazing night. So, again, mark your calendars for that date. And I think I'm going to leave it at that, Lucy.
I'm so excited. I really am. Some of these things, and especially the Halloween show, I am so looking forward to this.
Oh, if that's one show that anybody watches, I will be ecstatic, because it's going to be an amazing night.
No, and there's definitely some certain people that I really want to be here.
Really? Who?
Oh, like Connie and Mateo. I really want. It's just going to be amazing.
Okay.
Truly, you just have to be here. Everyone has to come back and listen to this show.
All right, leave it at that. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's go on and let's talk about the Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. And this week, you know, we've gone pretty global. That's one thing, you know, because of you know, being on the internet and with YouTube and our Facebook page. And you know what, by the way, guys, thank you so much for the support of our Facebook page. We are well over 10,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. But the Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week this week comes to us from Genova, Italy, and it is Man Bad Black. He is a manager at Misteso, and he attended the Conservatorio Nazionale de Musica. He likes the game Hidden Shadows, and of course, he likes Paranormal Review Radio. Grazie per essere un fan e complimenti a te.
I love it when you try to speak Italian.
I knew I was going to screw it up.
Congratulations, Mambet. And don't forget, if you guys want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, just like us on Facebook, comment, say hello, share one of our posts. The page is Paranormal Review Radio.
Okay. Well, you know what? After hearing these stories tonight, are you going to leave a light on tonight when you go to bed? It was really awesome to hear what others have experienced. And did something you hear tonight ring a bell for you? You know, you're not alone when it comes to your experiences. As we saw tonight, things can happen to all of us. So the next time you hear an unexplained noise or see a dark shadow that seems to be looking right back at you, just remember, you are not alone. Chances are that someone else has either seen or heard the same thing. We want to thank everyone again who called in tonight. We've talked a lot about what happens to us after we leave this plane. It's the reason why many of us investigate the paranormal. I mean, we're looking for the answers to what happens to us when we die. Does science, faith, or reality TV have the answer to what happens to us? Soul, consciousness. I mean, just what happens to us? Do we have the ability to know what lies beyond or the capacity to understand it? Should we even dare? Filmmaker B.J. Beretta has made a documentary that addresses these questions. Surviving Death, a Paranormal Debate, examines the paranormal topics of psychic communication, the ability to connect with humans in the afterlife from various lenses, scientific, parapsychological, theological, and entertainment, with a wonderful cast that includes the infamous parapsychologist Lloyd Auerbach. So join us next week as we talk about this amazing documentary with the filmmaker himself. We want to thank everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tonight proved how very special you are. Anthony, thank you for being the most amazing co-host in the whole world. So until next week, Parapeeps, keep the IR light on and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio. Paranormal Review Radio.
Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still, but he told us where we stand. And Flash Gordon was there in silver underwear. Claude Rains was the invisible man. Then something went wrong for Fay Ray and King Kong. They got caught in a celluloid jam. Then at a deadly pace, it came from outer space. And this is how the message ran. G. Carroll was over a barrel when Tarantula took to the hills. And I really got hot when I saw Jeanette Scott fight a trivet that spits poison and kills. Dana Andrews said Cruz gave him the ruse, and passing them used lots of skills. But when worlds collide, said George Powell to his bride, I'm gonna give you some terrible thrills, like science fiction. In the back row, to the late night double feature picture show.
Now
boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange?
Come with us and you will see. This our town of Halloween. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Pumpkins scream in the dead of night. This is Halloween. Everybody make a scene. Trick or treat.
Tell the neighbors on your diaphragm. It's our town. Everybody scream. In this town of Halloween.
I am the one hiding under your bed. Teeth ground sharp and eyes glowing red.
I am the one hiding under your stairs. Fingers like snakes and spiders in my hair. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. 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 Halloween.
In this town we call home. Everyone hail to the pumpkin song.
In this town, don't we love it now? Everybody's waiting for the next surprise.
Round that corner hang, hiding in the trash can. Something's waiting there to pounce and how you scream.
This is Halloween.
Red and black.
It's slimy green.
Aren't you scared?
Well, that's just fine. Say it once, say it twice. Take a chance and roll the dice. Ride with the moon in the dead of night.
Everybody scream. Everybody scream.
Here our town of Halloween.
I am the clown with the tearaway face.
Here in a flash, gone without a trace.
I am the who and you call who's there.
I am the wind blowing through your hair. I am the shadow on the moon at night, filling your dreams to the brim with fright. This is Halloween, this is Halloween. Halloween, 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 Halloween.
Halloween, Halloween. Tender rumblings everywhere. Life's no fun without a good scare.
That's our job.
But we're not mean in our town of Halloween.
In this town, don't we love it now? Everyone's waiting for the next surprise. And a tin jack might catch you in the back and
Scream like a banshee, make you jump out of your skin.
this is Halloween, everybody scream.
Won't you please make way for a very special guy?
One-Man Jack is king of the pumpkin patch. Everyone hail to the pumpkin king. Now this is Halloween, this is Halloween. Halloween, 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 Halloween.
In this town we call home. Everyone hail to the pumpkin song.
My eyes beheld an eerie sight, for my monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise,
He did the mash,
he did the monster mash.
the monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
he did the mash.
He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrode.
They did the mash,
They did the monster
the
mash.
monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
they did the mash.
They did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun.
In a shoot ball,
The party had just begun.
in a shoot ball.
The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rocking, all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains, backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker
They
Five.
played the mash,
They played the monster
the
mash.
monster mash.
It was a graveyard
They
smash.
played the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
they played the mash.
They played the monster mash. Out from his coffin, Drac's voice did ring. Seemed he was troubled by just one thing. Opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist?
It's now the mash,
It's now the monster
the
mash.
monster mash.
and it's a graveyard smash.
It's now the mash.
It's caught on in a flash.
It's now the mash.
It's now the monster mash. Now everything's cool. Drax a part of the band, and my monster mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you.
Then you can mash.
Then you can monster mash.
The monster mash.
And do my graveyard smash.
Then you can mash.
You'll catch on in a flash.
Then you can mash.
Then you can monster mash. Mash. You in?
Monster mash.
Mash.
Monster mash. Monster mash. Monster mash.
Double, double, toil and trouble, fireman and cold and bubble. Double, double, toil and trouble, something wicked this way comes. I've built a tall frog, all of bat and tongue of dog, and the smoke and blind would steam. This is neck and now let's breathe.